All right, guys, this is a trick I learned from overseas, actually. Now, if you're like me and you just run a passive engine evacuation system, crankcase venting or whatever, sometimes you run into problems with vapor and steam coming up through your vents and leaking down and condensing into the filter and running down and then burning off your headers. Well, the British came up with a secret to cover this back in the day, probably the 50s and 60s. And I saw a car with this stuff on it, an engine actually, not quite exactly the same, but the same principle. So, got these all relashed, ready to go. This side only has one vent. I had this welded up because of my power brake master cylinder stick out there. Here it is. This stuff. I don't exactly know what it is. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like heavy duty steel wool with a wide flat stuff. Now you want to make sure the inside of your valve cover has a full baffle. This baffle spaced off about a 1/4 inch with some blocks welded in there. So that will never fall in the engine. And this stuff doesn't break up. It won't break up like steel wool when it gets old. This stuff stays, I don't know if it's stainless or not, but it stays in this ribbon type form. Trying to get a good focus on it for you. But what that does is basically scrub the oil out of the vapor, or it takes the oil out of the vapor and makes it condense when it passes through. And then it'll run back into the engine, but it allows air to come through there. When it has to get interrupted by all these coils and disperse through there, the vapor stops. This works like a charm. I just got a wad of it about that long. You just be careful. It's fairly tough, but it will break if you bend it, and then the piece would fall in your engine. But if you're careful with it, you can just put it in there and it'll be fine. Now, I have found that this has popped out into the breather before, but the breather didn't leak either. So apparently it's staying in the breather, did the same idea and helped it run back in without it coming down and leaking. So it's a fairly good solution for that problem of this vapor steam drip leak that plagues you if you don't have like a positive crankcase evacuation system or whatever you're doing. But yeah, works good actually. Stopped my problem. All of mine would leak, catch vapor, and then just run down and smoke. You'd be driving the car if you didn't have a hood on it, and you'd see fucking puffs of smoke come out of the engine bay. And who wants a fire, right? So that works good. If you have that problem, use it. Later.